Hello everyone, my name is Jason Ramirez and welcome to Season 3, Episode 2 of the Hit List Podcast. A podcast where me and the guests cross out films from our watch list by watching them. I'm joined today by my good friend David Norton. So this is a very special episode because David, he's a good friend of mine and we actually live locally. So this is going to be the first episode where it's an in-person interview. So hello David, thank you so much for being here. Actually, thank you for hosting your home for us to record this in.
No problem. And I think you should probably say it's this way because I'm old and don't tech well.
Yes, that's why.
Yeah, it's mostly that.
Yeah, it's mostly the reason why we're here.
Yeah.
So David is a retired system and software engineer, and we met each other through the local film community in Maryland, D.C. area. So we worked together with James Couché, who was in season 1 of our podcast, on a film called Dumbass Shakedown.
That's right. Famous. Indie famous.
Indie famous. Yeah, there we go. More accurate. So David teaches Aikido and works with local actors and stunt people, helping them with their martial arts. And that's on screen, correct? On screen martial arts?
It's wherever it happens. Usually it's indie stuff, but sometimes it's, TV shows, and sometimes it's random. I did a TV show that was just they randomly asked, by the way, do you guys know how to fight? And we had to, and again, that was a weird thing on TV. I thought that things were much more professional, that we just kind of had to randomly, run through a fight, choreograph, and run it. But yeah, that's what I do because, I've got that background, and I have the background in acting, and I also like teaching, and it's fun for me to do.
That's good. Yeah, very professional. That's pretty much the film industry.
Yeah, it's interesting that sometimes that it's the TV shows that I've worked on are oddly not professional, whereas sometimes some of the indie stuff people do, like the stuff that James, very serious, has a lot of fun, but he's very professional and organized. But his stuff is just indie micro budget.
Yeah, James is like the only person I know who is like an indie film guy, but he's actually like on time with everything to the point where like most of the time we leave early.
Yeah, you get done. It's like like the last thing we filmed, it was like we were supposed to go until like 6:00, and at like 3:30 we were done. It's just because he's very organized. He's done a lot, and I think a lot is that he made mistakes before, and he's like, oh, okay, I got to not do that again.
Exactly.
So yeah, it is an interesting gamut of professional, unprofessional, TV, indie film, but. Anyway, enough about me.
So actually, before we get started into like the movies we're going to discuss, can you tell me more about your streaming viewing habits? Whenever you sit down and watch a movie, do you watch something new or do you stick to your favorites?
Yeah, that's a good question because even though I'm an old person and sometimes can't tech, I do like movies and interesting TV shows. So, and also what I don't have cable TV. I just have internet access, so everything is streamed. Although I'm also an incredibly honest person, and I don't like pirating things. It makes me feel bad, so I'm like, oh, I shouldn't do that. So I think I started with just Amazon Prime. That's all I had because I got it, I got it free. I'm like, oh, okay. And there were TV shows that I kind of liked, and a handful of movies would come out. But not having any type of TV, cable, I don't have any broadcast, it got harder to see things. So I kind of expanded my streamability, and there was one service called Canopy. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yeah, it's like if you have a library card, you have access to Canopy. And it's great because they have like old movies and, foreign films and like things I would never normally watch. I think this thing you had talked about, getting out of the comfort zone. So I got that, and then most recently when I got the big TV and I got this great home theater, I found that smart TVs have access to things, and I don't know how they work, but I have access to Vudu, or potentially Vudu and Hulu and all these other things. Some I've paid for to try out some of the stuff, some I've stopped. So I have a handful of things like Amazon, like Canopy, like I'm on and off Disney. Like when the Marvel stuff comes out, I watch, and then when the Marvel stuff is done, I cancel my subscription. So I'm weird like that, but hey, they let me do that, and until they don't. But yeah, I have a handful of those services, and like we talked about when you mentioned your podcast, I could sit and watch my favorite movies. Like I had all the Marvel movies on disc. I could just watch them over and over, but I want to see the things I haven't seen. I want to be challenged, and even though I'm an old guy, there's still old movies I haven't seen that. I put them on my watch list. And I'm like, oh, I got to come back to this, and I try to watch those. Like I'm about to sit down, and it's like I'm done with my yard work or whatever I'm doing, and it's like 7:00 at night. Okay, what do I want to watch?
Yeah, it gets overwhelming. Like that decision. Like you're able to sit down and watch something, but it's like, oh, that's a long list.
It is. So it's like, and I try to go by mood. It was like, am I a little tired and I want to get an action fix, or am I a little depressed and want something funny comedy? It's like, so it's weird what I figure out, and I do try to keep you in the back of my head to just kind of say, yeah, I should challenge myself. Watch that thing that you've put off and put off and put off.
Yeah.
And I just recently watched something last night that was incredibly weird, and I saw it just randomly going through Canopy. It's called Colossal.
Oh, is that with Anne Hathaway?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I know about it though.
And I want to recommend it to James because I know he's a big fan of the kaiju genre. He loves Godzilla and all the remakes. And I'm like, it's really interesting. It's a weird premise, but just, from a lot of aspects, it was one of the... And I'll watch movies for different reasons, like for one actor, or I've heard about this performance, or this director, or this story. But this one was a bunch of things. It just seemed really interesting. So anyway, that was my challenge from last night.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of interesting because I put off a lot of movies to watch. But this weekend, I was a little ill. I was a little under the weather. So I had more... Because usually I work on the weekends, but not officially work, but work on myself or planning for the week or whatever.
Right.
I need to take a break from that, but you know what? It's fine. I was able to take a break this weekend. So on Sunday, I didn't even plan this, but I just watched a bunch of kung fu movies. So starting with Disciples of the 36th Chamber, which is
Yes, I had someone recommend that to me, and he was like, if you haven't seen a lot of kung fu movies, he goes, start there.
Yeah.
And I went, okay, and it was really good.
Yeah, it's a very good movie. The first movie is called The 36th Chamber of Shaolin, and then there's a second movie called The Return to the 36th Chamber. But not a lot of people like that one. And then the second sequel is the one I saw, Disciples of the 36th Chamber, which I liked it, but I found the main character very annoying. Just insufferable in so many ways, and it's really hard because he's a very talented martial artist, so they can't really punish him for beating him up because he can beat them up.
Yeah, that punishment isn't gonna work.
Yeah, it's not gonna work. But I liked it not because of the main character, because the choreography of everything looked amazing, and the costumes. It's I don't want to say a rainbow. I don't want to say I used to insult shoes at the shoe store because I said it looks like a unicorn threw up on them because it got.
That's not an insult. It is merely a description of the thing. Yeah. Why are you insulted?
They're able to use color in a way that who's who, but it's not the typical black versus white. If someone's wearing black, they're evil. Someone's wearing white, they're good. No, it's a bunch of colors, and I really like the final scenes where they're all fighting each other and trying to escape from the building.
The movie that struck me in that way, I think I'm remembering it correctly. I think it was Jet Li in it, but I think it was Hero. It was, of the type of, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, modern Chinese, but very acrobatic, and everything is way over the top, but you still buy it. But everything was about color. Yellow was this person, red was that person, black, and it was sometimes just a sea of white, and then when guys were getting shot with arrows, then just all the red just gets splotched on. But it was how they did color was just jaw-dropping.
Yeah. And so the second movie I saw was Kung Fu Panda 2.
Nice, another Kung Fu.
Listen, I'm a huge fan of Kung Fu Panda. That trilogy means a lot to me.
That's fine. I don't poo-poo it. I've only seen part of the first one and part of the second one. I should really watch both.
I would suggest that. And those are short movies too. So the first one's an hour and a half. I recommend that one. And actually, it was so good that people in China were wondering. It was very, very popular in China to the point, very popular, very successful in China to the point people in China were wondering, how did Americans make a movie, Chinese movie, better than we?
Yeah. It's wow, without hitting major racist or stereotype points.
So, and the third movie I saw, which is to end the night, was Paper Tigers, which James also recommended.
I looked for it. Is it on Netflix?
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
I looked for it the other day, and it was funny because I was just kind of browsing, and I said, "Oh, I thought it was here." I have a feeling I'm going to have to search for it because it's not something they throw up on their trending now or look at.
I think it is trending now. Yes,
I didn't see it, but that is one I want. I wanted to see it in theaters, but in theaters, it was at the height of COVID, and like the closest theater that I saw when James and I were talking about it was in like somewhere in Central Virginia or something. Ooh. They were like, find a theater near me. There's nothing near you. It's in New York. It's in San Diego. It's in Chicago. I'm like, but it was like a 2-hour drive. I'm like, oh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that's like half your day because like movies like 2 hours, 2-hour drive. That's
2-hour drive. Then you got to drive back.
6 hours.
And then you have to eat somewhere. It's like, oh my god, it's a whole day out.
Yeah, it's a whole day out. So I don't blame you. Like I haven't been in theaters since. Not even 2020, since the beginning of 2020, probably 2019.
I've been going back. I've been every now and then.
Look
I went.
At you.
I'm so fancy. I have my list of movies that I have to see. I was going to see something during the week because I'm retired and I can do that. Then I put it off because too much yard work to do, and I'm going to see Suicide Squad on next Saturday.
That's a really good one. I think you'll like that.
I am again James Gunn. He brings a lot. Even though the first Suicide Squad was. Not horrible, just it was okay.
It could have been better.
It definitely could have been, but I think this is going to be.
I don't think
different.
It was horrible.
No,
I don't think it was horrible. Like people keep saying, "Oh, it was really bad." Like, no, it wasn't bad. It just could have been done better.
Exactly, and one of the best things that came out of that was the a YouTuber who I don't watch a lot of her stuff, but she did a thing called. The pitch meeting for Suicide Squad.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Is it Jenny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
That was really funny.
Yeah, and she's done a few good things like that. Yeah. But I think that the new Suicide Squad will be good. But anyway, so that's my movie habits. I've been to see movies recently in theaters. Go figure. Being super fancy.
That was a very long intro, right there.
Well, I was going to say how much time. Well, hey.
Too bad.
You're in charge. It's your podcast. You make the rules.
Yeah. The two films we'll be discussing today are Ghostbusters 2016, directed by Paul Feig, and The Sword of Doom, directed by Kihachi Okamoto. Ghostbusters is a 2016 American supernatural comedy film directed by Paul Feig and written by Feig and Katie Dippold. It stars Melissa McCarthy, Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, Leslie Jones, Chris Hemsworth, Justin Kirk, and Neil Casey. It is a reboot of the 1984 film of the same name and the third film overall in the Ghostbusters franchise. The story focuses on four eccentric, intelligent women and their incompetent assistant who fancy themselves as parapsychologists and begin a ghost-catching business in New York City. So this film was on David's list. David, why was this movie on your list?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, when the first Ghostbusters came out, that to me was like groundbreaking comedy. It was one of my favorite comedies, despite my not being a huge Bill Murray fan. But enough said there. But yeah, Ghostbusters, the first one was great. The second one had its flaws, but it still had that charm, and it had that, I mean, Aykroyd, Murray, Ramis, was just, that ensemble cast was amazing. So when I had heard that it was coming out and they were going to reboot it, I was like, oh, well, that should be interesting. I hope they can do it right. Then, when it was turned out to be an all-female cast, despite a lot of the haters saying, oh, this is going to suck because women aren't funny, I think we can agree that those people are idiots. But I was like, oh, man, that could be really good. Then it became just controversy central, and basically I just never got around to seeing it. But there was controversy.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the controversy?
We'll get to the controversy a bit. I don't think you can't discuss this movie without talking about the controversy.
Yeah, you have to.
You kind of have to.
Elephant in the room.
Yeah. But what are your initial thoughts of the movie?
After seeing it, I was disappointed. I wanted it to be good, and I tried to not let the controversy paint any kind of picture for me, because there's so many movies that you hear great things about, you see it, and you don't like it, or it's terrible for your taste, or vice versa. You don't hear anything about it, or you hear it's bad, and then you see it and like, that was so much fun, or it was great in some way. So I went in, and I think I'd mentioned to you, I don't know if your audience knows, I'm a pretty good audience. Like, I'll always give things a chance, and I'll go to see movies for an actor's performance or just one name on it. Like I mentioned Denzel Washington. I saw Jungle Cruise mainly because Emily Blunt. I could watch her read the phone book. She's wonderful. Or sometimes it's like, oh, this director's attached. Oh, I'm seeing it. I love all his stuff. Or, hey, I heard, they had this guy was the cinematographer or this art director, whatever. So I'm a good audience. But I saw it and it was not good. I mean, it for me, it failed on so many levels. Not just, and I would say not just, it was the controversy about it I tried not to listen to.
Right.
But it just didn't work for me in a lot of ways. Do you want me to go down my list, or do you want to kind of...
So I know you have a list of stuff that you found good. You want to go over that real quick?
Yes. Okay. Kristen Wiig. I was never a real big fan of her from SNL. In fact, I kind of stopped watching SNL, I don't know, maybe after Eddie Murphy. But I was always aware of SNL, and you'd watch it occasionally, and that's when, Wayne's World was a big in this piece, and then this. Anyway, but I would watch skits, especially once YouTube came out, and people would just show all sorts of different clips from shows. But Kristen Wiig, solid comic actress, skit actor, comedian. And I saw her in Wonder Woman, the second Wonder Woman movie. That really surprised me because I thought her acting was really good. Wonder Woman, the movie was fun.
Yeah.
The bar is not set too high for me for that. But Kristen Wiig, solid actress. Kate McKinnon, I just love. Yes. Mainly because her impressions. She doesn't do voices the way... I'm trying to think different people who can really do voices. Like Bill Hader from SNL does a lot of voices, but Kate McKinnon captures like the essence. Like being Kellyanne Conway, for example.
Oh, wow.
Just captures, doesn't do the voice, but just the creepiness. And just does so many good, interesting things. The story was okay. The reluctant heroes come together and, you get 4 very divergent characters. The jokes, a handful of them were good and funny, but mostly fell flat. And beyond that, that was the good for me. I mean, the effects were good, but you kind of expect good effects after the first and second Ghostbusters, and now in where we are in the state of things with CGI, it should be good, but no amount of effects can save this. Right. So I think that's all the good I can say about it.
So I agree with like a lot of your points there as well. The one joke I remember that I actually laughed at was when Chris Hemsworth was like being interviewed for his position, and he's like, "Oh, he's just really dumb. But he's kind of just funny as well." When he says, "Is it okay if I can bring my cat?" I'm sorry, but I'm allergic. No, my cat is not a cat. He's a dog. Wait, so your dog's name is My Cat? Yeah, and I was like,
but it's not My Cat. It's Mike Hat.
Yeah, and I was reading it. Okay. I saw it. I saw it with subtitles too, and I thought that was an error. It actually was spelled out Mike Hats when you start. Can I bring my cat? And I was like, what is this? Oh, that's the joke.
Yes, and it's like they took the joke and they kind of went, and that was good. But to me, a lot of the downside, and again, this is something that puts me off on comedy, and people will hate me because later Mel Brooks stuff I don't like. I like earlier Mel Brooks, like Spaceballs and Robin Hood Men in Tights. I didn't like because the jokes were obvious and they beat the dead horse of the joke until it was no longer funny. And that's a lot of the comedy they did was just, as I tell people when I complain about later Mel Brooks, it's like they tie the joke to a brick and they beat you in the face with it. It's like, no, be subtle with your jokes. If they get it, fine. If they don't, move on, tell another joke.
Yeah. One joke that I felt was like that was when Kristen's character, she goes to see her ex-boyfriend, or I'm not even sure what he was to her, but they're like on the side, and then Leslie Jones, I think it was Melissa McCarthy's character, were right there, and they're like, Leslie's like, I bet he goes down on the dance floor. I thought that was funny, but they kept going with it.
Yes.
They kept going. I'm like, 1 or 2 comments is fine, but like, I bet he goes down on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, okay, that's kind of funny, but they kept going.
Yeah, at a certain point, it's like, that doesn't make the joke more funny, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's like a funny joke, you tell it, and you get out. Mm-hmm. But then the unfunny jokes you got to tell again, and then point back, hey, we told a joke. It's like, no, that's not getting more funny.
Yeah, like you said, in the list of the bad that you showed me, you also mentioned like when one of the characters got slimed, they got slimed for like 30 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
Which was, compare that to the original, when Bill Murray gets slimed, you don't even see it. All you see is this zoom in and he goes, ah! And the next scene, they're helping him up and he says, oh, he slimed me. It happens off screen. Does that make it more effective? I don't know, but it was I don't know, maybe subtle. But it was just, the ghost is just puking slime on her for like 30 seconds. And after 10 seconds, you're like, is it still puking slime on her? Okay, still. That doesn't make a joke funny, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm an old fuddy-duddy.
So what were the other stuff that you said was bad?
And this is one of those things that can go either way. The fan service.
Right.
We talked about fanboys, and they can ruin movies. A little fan service is good, but some of the cameos and references were just, they were really trying to show you, like, look, we're in touch with the previous ones. I like the Harold Ramis bust when they go out of the dean's office and down the hall, and they only touch on it for a few seconds, then they move on. It's Harold Ramis because you can't get Harold Ramis because he's dead. But just so many references and overdone. Bill Murray's appearance felt so wasted. I mean, and it's weird. I don't know if anyone else thought this, but after he was, I guess, killed by the ghost, tossed out a window, they didn't do anything else. It's like, well, the guy did he get killed? What happened? I don't even know. He's Bill Murray. Tell me he's okay. But yeah, so many of those. And again, they weren't all horrible, like Ernie Hudson at the end. Mm-hmm. You know, he's Leslie Jones's uncle, the funeral director. Yeah, and a few. And some you're not going to catch unless you're kind of sharp-eyed. Annie Potts in one scene. I mean, a few of them, but some were just overdone. Dan Aykroyd is the cab driver. If they didn't have him say I ain't afraid of no ghost, I'm like, oh, come on. That felt weak. I don't know. But maybe that's just me.
I actually like that part.
You did?
I ain't afraid of no ghost.
And maybe it was just because I kind of like, okay, what are they going to have him do? Like, it's like from The Simpsons. Say the line, Bart. It's like, really? Oh, man. Anyway, what else? Oh, I should be upfront with the people I don't like. Kristen Wiig, Kate McKinnon, I liked. Melissa McCarthy, never liked. She has this character, this annoying loudmouth asshole. All right, playing that character once, okay, fine. It seems like every movie she's in, she is that, and she was that here. That character got old for me right away. But the joke of her testing out the new Ghostbuster, whatever it was, you knew going in that she's going to absolutely get slammed. And what happens? She gets slammed, and then slammed over and over and over and over and over. And it's just like, I'm so tired of this joke.
See, when they did that stuff in Looney Tunes, they had a limit, right?
Yeah.
They had like 1, 2, 3, you're done.
Yeah.
There's a pattern to it. There's a rhythm.
Yep.
But no, they kept doing it over and over again with this one. Like, oh, you didn't see how she got hurt? She got hurt again.
Oh yeah.
Let's show how much she getting hurt.
You think she's okay? And now she gets hit by a bus. Oh my God, not funny.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I wish I had examples, but too many of the jokes, just jokes that were told, whether they're visuals or someone saying it or whatever, just kind of fell flat. Like they'll tell the joke, and it wasn't even and it wasn't even like bad dad pun jokes. They were just fell flat, and I just didn't like that.
Reminds me of my biology teacher.
No, I did. Did he try to be? Was he the funny teacher who just wasn't making it?
She was very monotone, and I guess one time she told a joke, and then no one laughed. It's like, did you guys get it? And I'm like, no, we got it.
Yeah, we got it, but we kind of didn't expect it, and sometimes it's the delivery.
Yeah, it was a delivery.
Yeah,
it was a delivery. And I'm like, oh, did you guys get it? Because no, we got it. You just made it worse.
Yeah. and the very fact that you had to ask us, that's now worse. And the funny thing is, you talk about the stuff that you like, Chris Hemsworth being so stupid. Again, you can be stupid and make that funny, but some of the jokes, they were just, he was too stupid.
Right.
And that just was annoying. Again, I don't have examples. Like I said, I only watched it once.
Same.
I didn't want to watch it twice. Like, let me write down all the things I hated, because no, I'm not going to watch it. It was that bad overall.
Yeah.
So.
But something good I also liked was like the villain, who could have been done better. He could have been done better.
I actually liked that. I liked the villain and the concept. And also how they didn't dwell on him. Like, they showed him in his apartment lair or whatever, and they pan across, like, a Fields Medal and all this stuff, like he's this genius. But, so, okay, tortured, bullied kid or whatever. Yeah, okay, I could buy that. Now he wants to end the world in some type of Lovecraftian way. Sure. And I think the actor did a pretty good job.
Yeah, he did a really good job. When I say by better, I mean, like, in terms of, like, the story, you could have incorporated him into the story a lot better, because overall the story was kind of weak.
Yeah.
And when they introduced him, it's like, oh, he's a villain. Like, what? Okay. It kind of just surprised me out of nowhere, but not in a good way. You know? It was just like, oh, that was just out of nowhere. That's not a left field, you know? That's how it felt like for me.
And there were a handful of things that were just, like you said, out of left field. It's like, you know, come on, give us a hook. Give us a, Johnny Carson used to say when he'd do his old skits, stupid skits, and he'd just say to the audience, hey, if you buy the premise, you buy the bit. So it's just like, come on. You're accepting that there are ghosts? Okay, fine. I personally don't believe in ghosts, but okay, it's for the movie. Superheroes. Guy gets bitten by a radioactive spider. He doesn't die from some weird radiation poisoning. He becomes a superhero. I'll buy that. I'm a good audience. But this, it wasn't enough that we could just accept what they're showing. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like Kristen Wiig's character, she dabbled in the paranormal, and now she wants to get tenure, and it comes back to bite her in the ass. Great. It's fine. It's funny, and she has to deal with the hijinks and the shenanigans. Fine. But if you don't give us some kind of setup, we're going to get lost and wander away.
So I want to talk a little bit more about the development, because...
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This... I think I told you before, but like this, the planning for making a third Ghostbusters movie came after Ghostbusters 2, but it's been in development hell since then because Bill Murray didn't want to be a part of it because all the scripts he saw weren't good, and because of the lackluster performance of the second one, he just wanted to do a commitment to it. And the other cast members realized, like, without Bill Murray, there wasn't really a movie. Like, people wouldn't come back. Right. Essentially.
If you have Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson, you better have some damn good writing to make that. Because without Bill Murray, and I don't know at what point Howard Ramis passed away, but that's going to be a really tough sell to hardcore fans.
Yeah, and he said, like, it wasn't his relationship with the other actors. It was just a relationship with Columbia Pictures and Sony. Right. That he didn't want to, like, have that type of relationship right there. So his reluctance to, like, be a part of it kind of just said, like, okay, let's just reboot it instead. And there was also, like, a video game that came out in 2009 where they came back to voice them, like, including Bill Murray, all the original actors. I remember that, yeah. And that sold, like, 1 million units. So, like, they were playing, so, like, okay, let's bring it back because they're still interested in it. And it's an worthy IP, right? But, yeah, they did, like, for several different versions of the scripts. Like, there was one script where, like, if they didn't get Bill Murray, they'll just replace it with Ben Stiller and have the other characters as there.
Yeah. That is, again, not just because of the fanboys, but Bill Murray is fairly beloved. Yeah. Like... And to do a Ghostbusters without him, I think the fans would be justifiably upset at that.
Yeah. So they just suggested, like, just introducing, like, a new cast as well. But overall, the end of the discussion, the end result was just rebooting the franchise. And then with the whole development, they wanted to have, like, hilarious people on it. So they cast, like, SNL stars in there. So Leslie Jones, not Melissa McCarthy, but she's a comedy actress as well. Mm-hmm. But Kate McKinnon and Kristen Wiig, they're very funny women. So.
Oh, yeah. And I am also not a fan of Leslie Jones, only because I don't think she's as well-rounded as, say, Kate McKinnon or Kristen Wiig. But some of the things that she's done when she's not the tough black stereotype. Like when she did a skit where she and her husband, played by another SNL male member whose name I forget, he did Donald Trump Jr. all the time.
Oh yeah, I know.
And they were talking about it was a sex thing where they talk about their experience with this whatever sex thing, and Leslie Jones actually played it really well. She was very timid person who, as it turns out, in the sack, she's super crazy, trying all this weird stuff, and she's like her husband comes in, he's got like a broken arm, he's like cuts and bruised, and she basically goes in the bedroom. She's not timid, but she's playing as an actress. She's doing a good job. But her loud persona, I don't know, maybe it's just a lot of people like that, and just being that loud persona is enough. For me, it wasn't enough. It was just, I would have liked more, and I didn't get it.
Yeah, that's pretty much my same opinion as well. She plays like the same character a lot, kind of like Melissa McCarthy with her loud asshole character.
Yep.
It be like, I know they're capable of more. You know, they can do more.
I don't know. Like I said, Leslie Jones from that one skit I mentioned, but yeah, Melissa McCarthy, everything I've seen her, she's loudmouth asshole.
Have you seen Spy?
Yes, and I hated it.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, she plays loudmouth asshole who's trying to be funny and quirky. No, those are two stereotypes. But I don't know. But there were bits. That was a movie. There are very few movies that I stop in the middle of, and that was one about halfway, and I'm like. And there's only so much Morena Baccarin I can take. She was beautiful, wonderful. Again, she's just I could watch all day, but she brought nothing. And she was just like, here's me being beautiful. I'm like, and then Melissa McCarthy hating on the fact that she's so beautiful. I'm like, I am so bored of Melissa McCarthy being annoying. So sorry.
Okay.
Going off on some weird rants here. Sorry.
That's fine. So actually, some other people that were considered to lead it was Emma Stone. She was considered to lead it, but she didn't want to be committed to a franchise. Well, joke's on her, she is now.
Now she is.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. At what point was it decided? And I don't know. I should be a better historian, so I'll rely on you. At what point was it decided it was going to be a female cast?
So
was that did they make that conscious decision, or did you just kind of fall into place that way?
It was in 2014, like in.
Oh, okay. So it was not too early in the development.
Yeah.
Okay.
So a couple of years before, like it was released.
Yeah.
That was when the decision was made.
Which would have been fine. I nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Again, I think I'm fairly forward thinking and woke and a feminist and all, but just don't expect because it's a female cast that everyone should then automatically accept it if it doesn't have good writing and all the other parts aren't good.
Yeah, that's I've kind of created my own litmus test in a way. I don't really have like a better description for it, but basically if they advertise a movie and focus on like it's an all Latino cast or it's an all woman cast, I'm like, oh yeah, so the story sucks then, right?
Yeah, that's your selling point, that it's all female?
Yeah.
Nothing else? That's the big draw? Yeah.
It's the same with like these animated movies where like it's an all celebrity cast, like an all star cast.
Oh yeah.
Whenever you see this in trailers all the time, they list name after name after name after name, like, oh, these people are in it. Oh, so it sucks, right?
It suck, yeah.
And the only film I've seen where I don't remember that being a selling point, but it was one of those, was The Prince of Egypt. Because when I watched it as a kid, I didn't know there were so many famous people in it. And then as an adult, I'm like, yo, what's his name? Patrick.
Isn't Jake Gyllenhaal in that, or no?
I don't think he's in that. I
don't know.
Val Kilmer's in it. He's Moses. Sandra Bullock's in it. What's his name? He's the bald head guy from Star Trek.
Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart. He's in it.
Yeah.
A lot of famous people are in that movie, but you don't realize it because you're not there to watch like the actors like perform. You're there to like watch the story of Moses and everything. And to this day, it still holds up. And usually when people like watch movies nowadays, they watch it for like Dwayne Johnson, which I don't really, how do I say it? I don't really blame them for that because he's a charismatic actor. Like the reason you watch a Denzel Washington movie is because of Denzel Washington. Yeah. But it's kind of rare to see like, oh, you watch it because of the story. Or at least for me nowadays, it's like I know who the actors are. Like, oh, that dude's in Inception, that dude's in Dark Knight, and especially for like the Marvel universe expanding everywhere, you kind of see people saying like, oh, he was also in another movie with this other guy who played Captain America. You know.
But there's also, again, we can't be so naive that we are blind to the realities of Hollywood. Right. Like, yes, sometimes you want a name, whether it's a who's hot today? Emma Stone?
I guess Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, or, Robert De Niro or something. And if you can get that name, that will add more than if you get the B-list person. Right. So I understand they're fighting that fight, and that's a problem with, the white facing, getting white actors to play Asian roles or non-Hispanic actors to play Hispanic role or whatever it is. And sometimes that argument is valid because nowadays we have actors, Hispanic, Asian, Black, every type, racial makeup, that we can't use that excuse anymore. It's not the 30s in Hollywood where there were 2 Asian actors, But sometimes you want to get the big name to get the box office bucks, because it still is a business, and we have to realize that. We can't be naive.
It's like whenever I've heard this strategy as well, like when you make an indie movie, you have to get a name.
It depends. And again, I've seen some interesting indie movies.
Also for foreign markets as well.
Yes, and lots of things happen in foreign markets. Like, if you're going to show it in China, Marvel is having to deal with, you can't deal with demonic topics. Demons are verboten in China. So they have to change things, which is weird because there are some Marvel properties that involve demonic. I think Doctor Strange and maybe Shang-Chi might have some. But and that's a calculation they have to make. Right. So it's names, we can't ignore the big name actors. We just got to sometimes accept they're going to be there. Yeah. Sounds weird to say.
So, as far as the effects as well. Oh, actually, for casting, Cecily Strong was also suggested to lead it, but she eventually was just in a supporting role.
Yeah, again, Cecily Strong, I really like her characters on SNL, and she had a nice. It was good to see her in that supporting role. Oh, okay, it was good.
Yeah,
wasn't a groundbreaking performance, but it was interesting. It was kind of fun. Like I said, on a scale of 1 to 10, this wasn't a 1. It was a 3.
Yeah.
3 or 4. Okay, I watched it. It had some fun parts, but it wasn't enough to say that it was really great. So
yeah, and as far as the effects, with the ghosts and everything like that, you kind of expect it to be good because it is a multi-million-dollar movie.
Yeah.
So they actually did a really good job with that.
Oh yeah, some of the effects. I mean, Slimer coming back, they kind of captured that, and all the other ghosts. And I like the effect at the end with a big chasm in the ground, and it was well done, and it was that ending was very moving. I actually liked the ending. It was a feel good ending where someone sacrificing themselves to save someone, and it felt good, but again, not enough to save it.
Yeah. So there were 6 companies to that with 1,700 visual effects shots.
6 companies to do all that? Wow.
Yeah, 6 companies. And the main studios were Sony Pictures Imageworks with 300 shots that included the climactic Times Square sequence and all the proton beams. Moving Picture Company with 250 shots that centered around the final battle, which included Rowan's monster form. An Australian company, Allura, with 500 shots encompassing various ghosts. And the majority of the work involved CGI, and there was an attempt to use various practical effects akin to the original movies. Explaining that it wasn't to be a homage, but because it was the best way to achieve the effect.
Right.
So
and that's good that they did it as a kind of a stand. We want it to look a certain way, not just to be an homage, which is too often, like I said, fanboy service can sometimes
be too
ruin
much.
Things. Yeah.
So actually, let's now get to the controversy. So can't talk about this movie without talking about the controversy.
Yep.
So, the announcement of a female-led cast in 2015 drew a polarized response from the public and internet backlash, leading to the film's IMDb page and associated YouTube videos receiving low ratings prior to the film's release. So, I'm going to do my best to discuss this briefly because this could be a whole 1-hour episode.
Oh yeah,
by
you
itself.
you could talk just about that for quite a while.
All right, so Todd Martins of the Los Angeles Times suggested that fans felt entitled to a film that preserved the original as they imagined it. In an interview with Mashable, Ivan Reitman, I think he was the original director.
He's director, yep.
Said, I think there's way too much talk about gender when it comes to this film, and I think that many of the people who were complaining who were actually lovers of the original movies, not haters of women. Some saw the portrayal of Leslie Jones' character as a street-smart New Yorker as a stereotype to African Americans. And Jones responded to this criticism on Twitter, writing, "Why can't a regular person be a Ghostbuster?"
And I actually liked how they included her. I like she just kind of showed up, and she's not street savvy, but she's like this. And again, if they had played up her a nerd about city matters. If they'd played that up a little more, her character would have been a little more, I don't know, likable. But I liked her inclusion. She just kind of showed up and hey, you guys know the science, I know the city, I can help you out. And maybe make that be kind of the annoying kid who wants to play with the big kids and they keep trying to shoo him away. But they didn't. And it just kind of oh, you know the science, I know the city. Okay, Ghostbusting. Okay, again, fell flat like a lot of jokes. but I didn't hate that character. I'm
Me neither.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, I think actually they could have played up more, like, because she's a history nerd. Because she kept saying, like, the history behind the building,
right,
by the street.
Right, her first contact with Rowan, the bad guy, she's like, oh, and did you know that? And he just kind of looks at her and goes, yes, and you will all be killed. And she's like, well, whatever. And just kind of moves on, and that was kind of funny. But, yeah, they could have done more with that. And
also, Elizabeth Flock, writing for PBS, said that the vote brigading targeted at the film may have been motivated by racism towards Jones.
That is possible because I am now no longer surprised at any amount of racism anywhere.
Yeah.
But I would say it's probably more the hate that kind of stirred up a lot of this controversy was more misogyny. It's like, because, you've probably heard it, male comics and some female comics saying women just aren't funny. I'm like,
where does that come from?
I think misogynist assholes.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get people hating. It's like they need a reason to hate. You're a different color than I am. You're a different gender than I am. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from, but it's out there. So I would, if I had to guess, I would say it's 75% misogyny, 25% racism. It's what mired this controversy.
I think it was like more misogyny, but the racism was still there.
Oh, it's there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And are you familiar with James Rolfe? He's the angry video game nerd on YouTube.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Is he an asshole I need to know about?
No, he wasn't an asshole. He just said he didn't want to see the movie because it wasn't associated with the first movie. And then he got harassment from people who were...
What the hell, man?
He got harassed, not by like the misogynistic fans, but the people who wanted to see the movie.
Kind of the ultra woke folks. It's like, you should like it because it... But that's not why... It seems like that's not why the guy didn't like it. He wanted a connection. And again, let people like things or not like things for their reasons. Valid, usually, but often personal reasons.
Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to watch it for that reason. Okay, don't watch it then. I don't know why there's so much hate on that. It sounds like people are trying to look for a controversy, even if there isn't one.
There was also like a critic who said, I really wish this movie did better just to suck it to the misogynists. But unfortunately, it sucks.
Yeah. It's like we want to tell those misogynistic assholes, kind of put in their face. It's like, yes, women can do comedy, but if it's not good, you got to be honest and say it's not good. Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? Before Joker was released, people kept saying like, oh, we might have some people shooting or like shooting up the movies because like the last guy who shot up The Dark Knight Rises theater back in 2012.
Yeah.
He thought he was a Joker. And I was like, what? No, you have it all wrong. That you kind of, because so many shootings happen in this country that some facts and figures collide when they shouldn't be.
Or people look for a cause or a reason why that isn't really there. Or they say, well, this person said he was motivated by this thing. It's like, well, removing that thing isn't going... It's like, he was motivated by the Batman movies. Okay, so we don't make Batman movies anymore. Don't worry. He'll get a different guy will get motivated by a Punisher movie or a Spider-Man. No, Spider-Man. Spider-Man doesn't do anything. Everyone loves Spider-Man.
See, it wasn't even like that either, because they confused it with another guy who shot up another place within the same week who was inspired by Joker. So, like, the film...
It's people are making weird connections.
Yeah.
Like, the Batman connection was, it was the Batman movie he was at.
Exactly.
He didn't have any mental association with any Batman character. He just was a disturbed person who was probably racist and has other mental problems. And in a Batman movie decided to kill a bunch of people.
Yeah.
That's your Batman connection. He was in the movie.
And then, like, when he went to his court date, he dyed his hair orange. And people were like, oh, yeah.
Oh, the Joker.
The Joker. Like, have you not seen any movie with the Joker?
That's not... No. Yeah, people just...
But, yeah, and also, like, the controversy surrounding Joker before it even came out, it's kind of like... It kind of looked like people were kind of hoping for it to do bad.
Yeah, so they could
and also
use it.
Hoping for it to, like... Not hoping, but, like, they're kind of expecting someone to shoot up a Joker theater or, like, a theater screening. And it never happened.
Right.
And I'm like... Well, what happened to you guys? Like, So that's what it reminded me of, like this controversy, like with misogynists here. Like you kind of wanted this movie to do good, just to like, give him a second, but no,
it didn't. That's...
Yeah, but like whereas Joker, you don't hear anyone else talking shit about that movie unless they don't like the movie. And the thing is, it's okay to not like a movie, right? Yeah.
And again, a lot of tastes, a lot of things are personal. It's like music. I'm sure music that I like, you'll listen to and say, "Oh, that's crap," and vice versa. But there are some things you can say, well, when you have a coherent story, that's better than an incoherent story. Not always, because sometimes having an incoherent story can be good if you're doing a story about a guy's insanity. Mm-hmm. Maybe there should be some incoherency to kind of reflect that. But certain things, like you want actors to be good, and you want the lighting to be good, and you want the sound to not... All these things that... Like, if there are too many checks in the negative column, the movie overall, you have to say, well, it's not good. Mm-hmm. And having a female cast isn't in and of itself a good thing. Because if we're going to be feminists here, which I think we both are, yes, you can have a female cast, you can have a male cast. You can have female Ghostbusters, male, or a mix. Shouldn't matter. What should matter is it a good story? Is it well acted? Is it funny? Are the effects, etc., etc., etc.? That's what matters. And if you're arguing that because you didn't like it, because it was an all-female cast, that is disingenuous.
Right. Speaking of insanity,
yes,
we're going to talk about our next movie right after this break. And now a word from our sponsors. Now back to the show.
Sword of Doom is a 1966 Jidaigeki film directed by Keiichi Okamoto and stars Tatsuya Nakadai. And I got all those right because of my vast experience with Japanese martial arts. The movie's based on a serial novel of the same title by Kaizan Nakazato. This film was on your list, Jason. Why was this film on your list?
So, I'm a fan of Akira Kurosawa. I think a lot of filmmakers are, you know, kind of had to be.
It's like Hitchcock, Spielberg, Scorsese, Kurosawa, and the French director whose name I always forget, but I have some of his films on my watch list. Yeah, but yeah, he kind of has to be there.
Yeah, so I want to see more stuff from like other directors of that time period, because I've heard this criticism of Kurosawa as well. It's like he's very Western director.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are influenced by that, whereas the other directors are more like East focused, focused like Eastern stuff. So the reason I want to watch this movie is because I actually like heard about it like recently, because I'm actually writing a script for like a short samurai film that I think you know of, and I wanted to see more examples of it. So I saw that Barnes & Noble was having like 50% off their Criterion collection, so I was like, you know what, might as well. And James actually suggested this one. I'm like, yeah, might as well watch it, and that was a good recommendation. So that's why I watched it. And usually it doesn't happen this way. Usually I'll wait years before I watch it.
I'm going to watch it. Maybe next... yeah.
Because there are a lot of Akira Kurosawa movies on HBO Max. Like a lot of the
really?
Ones. Yeah. Not all of them, but like I know Hidden Fortress is there. I think Seven Samurai is there.
It's so funny because I canceled my HBO Max subscription, speaking of my streaming habits, because the only thing on there I wanted to see was Westworld.
Really?
I watched season 1 and I was done.
Okay, let me show you on my phone real quick.
Okay, you got a list for me?
Because HBO Max has this thing where if you look on like the three lines, it actually shows you like Cartoon Network or whatever. So for those of you who are listening, I'm gonna like show something to David that I'm just gonna.
And this visual stuff is great for podcasting. I hear.
So right here on the upper left, right here, you see the 3 lines right here.
Yep.
Click that, and you know there's like other categories right here. I go all the way down. And I go to TCM. Turner Classic Movies. And they have a lot of good ones right there. So they have 8.5.
Yep.
Gandhi, and you have Willy Wonka. I'm gonna have to watch
original. That. I have the original on disc. FYI.
Casablanca, Citizen Kane.
Casablanca is one of my favorites. It's a great movie.
Citizen Kane, and a lot of the older stuff too. So I usually watch like the stuff that's like categorized as Turner Classic Movies, because they have a lot of classic ones right there.
Right.
But I'm actually gonna search Akira Kurosawa for you real quick.
Yeah, and it's funny because I saw recently on, I think it was Amazon Prime, I just watched I just watched Ron, which was a little rough. That was really slow. But visually it was really good. But there's something else there. I want to say Throne of Blood. And you know Ron is based on Lear.
Yeah.
And Throne of Blood is based on Macbeth.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they also have they added some other classic stuff that I've been wanting to watch, which is, I just saw 3 Hitchcock films. Vertigo. Oh, geez, there were 3, and I'm like, as soon as I saw them, I'm putting them on the watch list because, like, I gotta watch them because my luck, they'll take them off.
So currently there are 6 films on HBO Max. So there's The Hidden Fortress, Yojimbo,
Saw it.
Throne of Blood, Seven Samurai,
Saw it.
Rashomon, which is very
Saw
good.
Rashomon.
That's a really good one.
Rashomon, that's another one that and Sword of Doom is one I have. That's one I have to. I saw Rashomon once. I have to watch it again.
Yes,
because it is the retelling of the story from perspectives, and it was like, you don't know that going in unless you're a fan or you've heard, but it's still, it is such a dense movie. Sword of Doom was the same. It's so much there. I have to watch again. So I'm going to call you up at some point and say, "Hey, Jason, I'm in a samurai mode. Can I borrow the Sword of Doom?" You're like, "Okay, Dave, but lend me." I'll lend you a movie. So anyway, yeah, that's great that they have 6 right off the bat there.
Yeah, and I saw on Amazon Prime they have Ran on there, and I have that on my list too.
Ron.
I was gonna. Ron? It's Ron?
It's Ron.
Okay.
Sorry.
My bad.
I'm going to be pedantic because I can do some of the Japanese pronunciations. Dude, it should be easy. Japanese is just like Spanish. Same vowels.
Listen, I also go with English too. So
okay.
I guess language is bastardized for me.
No problem.
So
understood.
So I actually had that downloaded on my phone, like through Amazon Prime, because I was gonna watch it on my flight to LA. But I was watching 36 Chamber instead.
Okay,
yeah,
that's all right.
And I was also like sleepy, so.
Oh yeah, and that's some movies you can watch and kind of be in and out. Like, you know, you can, like, on your second view of a Marvel film, or, you know, another on your third view of a Fast and Furious movie. Fine, you're not all there. But if you're watching a Kurosawa or, you know, Citizen Kane or, you know, a Scorsese, big dense movie.
Yeah.
You gotta pay attention.
You gotta be all in.
You gotta.
And I also didn't feel it would do justice too, because it's on my phone. Like,
yes,
my phone is like pretty big for its size. Like, you can see all of it. But a Kurosawa film, man, you want to see at the very least a computer screen.
I was gonna say at least a tablet. You know, something.
At the very least.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting to like watch it like on somewhere bigger. Probably my family's TV.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing. That and Ron is. Like I said, it was a little tough for me. I shouldn't admit this, but it was kind of slow going. Now, fortunately, I was familiar with King Lear, so you understand it's the Mad King and his 3 daughters, but in this case, the 3 sons. So I was able to kind of stay focused, but I thought I would be more engaged.
Right.
I seemed to be less engaged. Sword of Doom, however, I was hooked from the beginning. So be aware when you watch it. So, Sword of Doom, what are your first thoughts?
I really like this movie. Like you said, there were some moments where like it was a little slow, but I was still able to like, catch what was going on. And there are a few scenes that still stick out to me. Like it's been a couple weeks since I've seen it, but it sticks out.
I actually had to write down some of the scenes, or at least one of the scenes and I think the average person is not going to care, because people, I think, will watch this if you're not familiar with the genre and want to see the sword fighting. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Samurai, who doesn't like that? But I want to hear your, what's your fave?
So there's actually 3, and it kind of goes in order because it kind of has chronological order. The very first scene when he kills the old man for nothing.
Yeah.
You get a sense of his character. I'm like, yo, what do you do? Nothing.
He just wanted to murder.
Yeah, he just wanted to murder. Yeah. He had murder on his mind. He woke up and chose violence, which is a very common thing for him to do. Like, he is a very violent man.
Oh yeah, but I also wonder, and I this is one of those things I should probably read the book and I should study more. I'm wondering if because it's called the Sword of Doom, is the sword possessed? Did it make the carrier? It's like and from some kind of, you know, fantasy world thing. Did it control him? Sometimes there is a little bit of, and I don't know a lot about the Japanese culture and the history, but there is a little bit of an animus, like objects have agency, let's say. Spirits, a lot of spirits in Japanese, in a Shinto Buddhism. And I've heard the talk about the sword is the soul of the samurai. And there's a famous movie, I forget which one. Again, this was in my pre-notes that I sent you. I said, I shouldn't admit to all the Japanese movies I haven't seen. Because I'm like, doing martial arts, Japanese martial art for 34 years, sword martial art for, I don't know, 12. I should know these movies by heart, but I don't. There's one movie where a guy takes his sword to be sharpened, and the guy kind of dismisses him and talks about the sword is the soul of the samurai, and I would be sharpening your soul. And the guy has this kind of awakening, and later he comes back to the sword master and tells him, I need my soul sharpened, and then he said, you've learned the lesson. That kind of, it's a little heavy-handed, but it was still that's what the sword is. It is the soul of the samurai. So could this sword of doom be an evil thing that is corrupting his soul? I don't know. It's something that might be there.
I don't necessarily
reading into it.
I don't necessarily agree. I think it's just magnification of himself.
Okay, so it's the sword of doom. It's maybe it's also the samurai of doom. It's this corrupt, evil individual.
Yeah, because like you see other people, like other samurais in the movie, and there's that one guy who I'll talk about later, who very skilled at the sword, but he's not evil. So the only reason why he's not evil is because he's not evil at heart, So if the sword is possessed, then they made no hints of it.
And maybe that's, again, I could absolutely be reading into that myself.
Right.
But that was my thought. So, okay, that was your first thing of, holy crap, this guy just freaking murdered somebody. Yeah.
My second scene that stood out was when almost no sword play is happening.
That's my scene.
That competition.
Dude.
Oh my gosh. Never have ever been so tense to see something not happen.
Exactly. Yeah. That was kind of the springboard of the movie, of this confrontation between this guy who's just so good. Well, he's so good. They want him to throw the match.
Right.
Because if this guy loses, that would look really bad. But he's clearly the better swordsman. And he has this honor that he won't. Again, there's some bits of that scene that I think were lost on me because like you said, freaking murdered a guy just before, and what the hell's happening? And now he's going to fight another. What? So I was a little lost. Like I said, I'm going to borrow this from you again. But yeah, that scene, just nothing is happening. And it's just a movement, a foot turn, a little lean, and you're like, oh, holy crap! You were so nervous.
Right, and it's too late before the referee can call it, because he looks at the other guy like, oh no, you gotta call it. It's a drop. Nope, too late.
and I had to watch that scene, like, what actually happened? Like, when he came at him with the illegal ski. Oh my gosh. And he basically got out and knocked him the crap out.
Yeah.
And just killed him. I think that was the butt of the sword. He didn't even cut him, which is kind of weird because usually they chop, and that's what you do with the sword. But yeah, that tension there, you were just, I was just absolutely engaged.
So it actually reminds me, because I was watching the James Cameron Masterclass, which is on Masterclass, the website, with like celebrity instructors, and he broke down his movies, and he said, like, whenever you're gonna have like a moment of suspense, keep the audience there, and then reward it later. And I was just thinking, like, oh, did James Cameron watch this movie? Because they really kept you in suspense throughout the whole thing. Yeah. And then boom, what? And then you're shocked. It's not like a big explosion. No, it was like, whoa, what happened? Like I said, I had to go watch it. I think I watched it twice, from the very end of the tension to like, what happened? Like, holy crap, that was serious tension. So that was the second one.
That was the second one. Okay.
Actually, I know I put spoiler warnings at the beginning of the episode.
This is definitely
before
a spoiler.
So if you've been spoiled by this movie, I think you can still watch it. You'll still see like suspense right there. But My bad. I warned you in the beginning.
Yeah, you were warned, audience.
So, third scene is the scene where the samurai is ambushed in the snow. And just the cinematography of everything. And the main character, he doesn't even fight him. He's so scared of him. He's like, whoa! You are so much better than me. I'm not gonna do anything. I'm like, oh, look who's talking. Yeah, you're not talking shit no more, huh? You ain't talking shit no more, huh? Not gonna fight him. Not gonna fight Toshiro Mifune. So that scene, because it's like a pretty long scene. I'm really happy it was, because it's very cinematic, and like the snow falling adds to the whole thing.
Yeah. So
just kills the whole group except for that one guy.
Yep.
And just leaves them there. Like, bro, you gotta finish the job right now.
No, well, maybe he had a reason.
But yeah, those are like 3 scenes that stood out to me.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that, on the first one. There's other movies that I like action as much as the next guy, but sometimes you need a break in action, or you need quiet time, but you need sometimes that tension, that anticipation. It's that I think they've mentioned in film the analogy of in the roller coaster, just before you drop, that anticipation, because the drop is the rush, but the anticipation of it, if they can build that up, it makes the rush of the drop even bigger. And there's I think it was Kurosawa's last film, and I'll let your audience rip me apart, like in your show notes, and I'm sure on your website they'll say, "Oh, Dave's such an idiot. He should know these things." It was called. I have it. I've watched it, but I got to get subtitles somehow. I don't know how to do that. I'm sure there's a tech way.
Is it Dreams?
No, it's called After the Rain. The Japanese is Ameagaru.
Okay.
It's about a samurai, a Ronin samurai, on the road with his wife. They're just going from point A to point B, trying to survive. He gets hired by a local, whatever, daimyo guy, little, like we mentioned, the little fiefdoms all over the place, to teach his samurai. And this guy does almost nothing in his matches with, and it's all wooden weapons. They're not fighting with live blades. But he does a wooden sword, wood on wood, and he's slow. And he's an older guy. He's like in his 50s or 60s, and all these young kids, like 20s and 30s, challenging him. And he just moves so slow and so deliberate until they make a move, and then he'll just kind of, he won't even, the sword, the cutting end of the sword he'll just kind of raise the butt end, just like in the guy's face, and he'll have this moment of, holy shit, I can't do anything. And then they'll start over again, and he'll do these minimalist movements, and then they'll get into like actual action, and he fights a guy with a naginata, which is like a 7-foot stick with a samurai sword on the end, and he kicks his ass. And it's all these fight scenes where this old guy does very little, but you can tell he is totally in charge. So, anyway, not sure why I brought that up. But, yeah, this, I don't have apart from that first scene, I don't have any one scene that really stood out to me until the end, when it was just that mayhem of him going through the house, castle, keep, whatever it was, and was just going insane.
Right.
And yeah, and do we want to jump to the end, or do we want to go more on the awesomeness that is the sword fights? The sword fights were just...
we can skip to the end a little bit, yeah. Did you know he actually used a real knife for that?
No.
Not a real knife, a real sword.
No.
They used a real sword for that scene. And
yeah, that's what happens when you make movies in the 50s. Where you're like, use a real sword, it'll be fine.
I'm not sure if you remember, there was like this one point where he kind of used the sword as a cane as a little bit.
Yeah, he's kind of like...
That was a real sword as well. And the cinematographer was like telling him, like, watch out for your big toe, man. Like, you're being very... Yeah, be careful. And it's like, just seeing that, it's like amazing. Like, use a real sword for that. Wow.
Dude, we used metal swords on a project that we won't mention on the air because we don't want to give it any more traction to freaking Nazis. Anyway, we used metal swords, which I thought was a little risky. They weren't sharp, but they were metal.
Right.
One girl almost had her face hit with a metal sword until I said maybe we shouldn't do it such that the girl is running into her face. But anyway, yeah, that you couldn't get away with that today. That's just wouldn't happen.
And I think I might be remembering this incorrectly, but the final fight scenes as well were used with real swords, and if you didn't know how to use it, you're kind of considered like an amateur.
Yeah. That would not surprise me from it back in the day.
Oh, you don't know how to use a sword, like for a fake fight scene?
Dude, get out!
Get out of here! You're not professional.
Yeah, go sit down and watch. Maybe you'll learn something. But yeah, the ending was just that. Again, visually and like metaphorically, the insanity that he's going through was just amazing. But I didn't think it would end that way.
Me neither.
I was expecting an ending, like he gets killed or he kills his but no, it just kind of stops.
Freeze frame.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the crap?
Right?
Like I said, I'm definitely gonna have to borrow this from you again because I was just. It did not go where I thought.
Yeah, and there's so many like loose ends. Like there's like different story plots that are going on where like there's like the brother of the man he killed, like in that competition. He's been practicing a move specifically to counteract his own move.
Yes,
and you see
the whole movie.
The whole movie he's practicing,
and nothing. And that's maybe this is the director kind of usurping our expectations.
Yeah, that's actually a very, how do I say? Because I said earlier that like our audiences are very film literate now.
Yes,
I'm not sure if it was during the recording. I forgot, but they're very literate. They know where things go. Like if you see like, oh, his parents are about to get murdered. He's about to become a hero.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, and the thing is, we can see that, and it can be good. Like where, oh yeah, we have this expectation, but do you want to have the expectation, or does the director want you to have that expectation, or does he want to flip it on its head?
And I think this is like a great way to subvert that expectation right there. And it's like, oh, you don't have the satisfaction.
yeah. And it's funny because I'm wondering, this was made in what, 1950 something?
66.
66, yeah. And that was probably at the height of Kurosawa. Mm-hmm. So it's like, and the Japanese, they made a bunch of samurai films and a lot of TV shows too. And it was these moralistic stories, the hero winning at the end and so forth. And that's, the audience kind of was expecting that. So maybe this director went, no.
Yeah.
We're changing it up on you.
And also, like, there's also a reason behind it, too, because they were planning a sequel. But they said no.
But that would have been interesting because then what happens? And then we get to see in the second act, like when they would do some old-timey movies, it's like the serials, it would end on a cliffhanger. What happens to our hero? Or maybe the villain now. And people would want to see that. So I'm a little surprised when you mentioned that. And then, they were expecting to write a sequel, and then they didn't.
See,
damn it!
The reason why is because this isn't like a unique story. This isn't like a film that has its own unique story. It's based off a novelization of a serialized thing. Some newspaper serial, right? And it was like on a newspaper for like 3 decades. It was very popular. It came out after like Emperor Meiji died. A lot of volumes were published, but then the author died before he could end it.
You know what this sounds like?
What?
This sounds like Sherlock Holmes. Because Sherlock Holmes was written for the newspaper.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Arthur Conan Doyle put it out in, and I forget the newspaper. But yeah, it was like a serial. It was like people would tune in to the latest Sherlock Holmes story. And like this, it's like some things Conan Doyle purposely did. Like he wanted to end it. He didn't want to write it. And so when he killed Sherlock Holmes at Reichenbach Falls, that was supposed to be the end of it. And the people in London went crazy.
Wow.
They were like, no, we want more. And he had to bring him back from the dead and then write more and more, which he apparently didn't like doing.
Wow,
so I'm getting this weird Sherlock Holmes vibe from this Japanese newspaper serial.
Yeah, but the author died before that could happen.
Yeah, which makes it harder.
Yeah. That also reminds me of like those. You've seen Misery, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So like just.
Yes.
I'm just thinking like, oh, London is filled with misery people.
Yeah, maybe.
But the thing is, this movie is like the most famous version, the most famous adaptation of that story.
Oh, I didn't know there were others.
There are others. There was one that, like, a 2-part film made in the 1930s, and they had made a couple more after World War II in the 1950s as well. So this one is just the most popular one.
Gotcha.
So it's not like the ending is unknown. Mm-hmm. It's that's just one adaptation.
Right. And with the thought to continue it, but then never did.
Yeah, never did. Yeah, and the movie stars Tatsuya Nakadai. Is that saying correctly?
That sounds right. Yep.
Okay. So he is very famously known as the bad guy in a lot of movies. So have you seen Yojimbo?
I've seen Yojimbo, yes.
Yeah, so the guy with the gun.
Okay.
That was him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thought he was familiar.
And Toshiro
Mifune.
Yeah, he was Yojimbo, right?
He was Yojimbo, yeah.
Yeah. He's the other guy in the movie.
Right. He's the sensei of the student who was practicing for the secret technique for their final confrontation. And it's funny because I saw Toshiro Mifune, I'm like, I expected him to be the lead, but he has more secondary role. And the funny thing is, when the guy kills all the guys on the boat, I thought Toshiro Mifune was one of them. Right. It was hard to see because of the rain and everything. Like, I didn't know Toshiro Mifune died. I was like, how did I not hear about this? And then he shows up later. I'm like, oh, you got me.
Yeah,
because it was like he was like one guy who wasn't there at that time. I'm like,
yeah, that was a really good scene as well. That was like very suspenseful. Like, but yeah, Tatsuya. He's really used to playing the bad guy, and he says he kind of prefers it because usually the villains have more dimension to them.
I've heard that from a lot of actors.
Yeah,
like American actors, a lot of British actors. Yeah, it's good to be a hero and all good, but villains tend to have there's a little more depth to villains. Well, good villains, well-written villains. So, sounds like the same thing in Japanese film.
And also, Toshiro, he did something that kind of inspired Tetsuya to do the same. He would memorize his scripts before he'll show up. So he wouldn't even show up with the script. He memorized everything before he would show up. Okay,
speaking as an actor, I thought that's what you did.
Be like everyone's parts.
Oh, everyone's parts.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard some American actors will do that, but these are people who are like really driven and also have really good memories, which I don't have. Yeah. But yeah, that's interesting. Now I wonder how much of that is him just being an insane perfectionist, or maybe kind of going a little too far, like doesn't trust people, or I don't know. But I didn't know that about Toshiro Mifune.
Yeah, he's really good, and it inspired Tetsuya to like start memorizing his scripts too.
Okay, that would definitely do it. Was there any bad from your point of view for this movie? Because I had a couple things in it, and I think they're nitpicky, but I have them, so I wonder if you.
So I think if you're not too familiar with like samurai movies and like the history of them, you might see some parts of the movie where like what's going on.
That is exactly my thing. That whole, and I think I'd mentioned in the notes I sent you. It was the whole the political intrigue, like this governor and this senator and this alderman and who and relationships and how they were, and because some of it is cultural. Like there are certain things you just do in Japanese society. Like again, there's a connection to Sherlock Holmes. There were aspects, there were like plot points in some of the Holmes works that hinged on British behavior. Like a guy was able to commit a crime because he was dressed in formal, coat and tails. He was a waiter, so he's dressed this way, and he basically took the demeanor of an English gentleman while dressed as a waiter, and no one paid any attention to him when he was going from point A to point B because he wasn't acting like a servant, like a waiter. So there's similar things, I'm sure, in Japanese customs and culture and politics I was lost on. I'm trying to figure it out. And my other problem, I don't know if you have this problem, the subtitles. I don't hate them, but when I have to look and read, I'm not seeing the guy give a look to the other guy, and then I'm reading it, and I miss so much when I'm reading, because I read very slowly also.
Yeah, that can be a complaint as well. But if they if they dubbed it, I'm not sure it would be better. I'm not sure.
In some ways, I think it will, and also nowadays, because you've heard when they dub, there are certain actors in certain languages, like they're Spanish speaking actors, who always voice the same character, like the hero. Yeah. Whether it's Tom Hanks or Gary Oldman or Robert De Niro, this one actor always does the hero voice, and this actor does the villain voice. There's got to be that in, English into Japanese, maybe.
Yeah,
I'd like to see it. I'd like to try it.
I'm just not very. There's like a whole subs for Dub Wars in like the weeb community. I'm not too much a part of it, but I have seen I do have this thing where it kind of takes away from their performance if you dub it.
You think?
A little bit.
Okay, I will agree to that on paper, but I will hear it and I will understand it. So I'm like, yeah, give the credit to the guy doing the English. Come on, you got to pay. He's getting paid. You're taking money out of these struggling voice actors.
Actually, I will say I saw The Dark Knight in Spanish once, right?
Interesting.
Here's the thing, though. I do say this thing about dubbing into English from foreign languages, but when I was a kid, we had Telemundo, those other Spanish channels, and a lot of times they'll show movies on the weekends, A lot of they're mostly 90s action movies.
Okay.
And all of them were in Spanish. And when I watched them in English later on, I'm like, it's not the same anymore. And so when I watched,
that's good.
When I watched The Dark Knight in Spanish, because I've seen it in English, I've seen it plenty of times in English. The voice of the Joker was very well done, and I was like, I feel so bad because he will probably never be known because not a lot of people.
How many people have seen the Spanish version?
I mean, probably Spanish audiences.
Yeah, but in terms of numbers versus the people who've seen Dark Knight. Yeah.
So I was like, he did a very good job on that, and I never learned his name, but he if you're listening to this, Spanish actor,
kudos to you.
Yeah,
well done, Spanish Joker.
Because they mostly remember Heath Ledger because he did a great job.
Oh, that was an amazing performance. But so I would. Is Sword of Doom, does it even have a dubbed version or no?
Not in the Criterion one that I got.
Maybe it's out there, but that's one of those things for movies like this that I've seen and will probably see again. I'd like to do both. Try it with subtitles, watch it, and then try it with dubbed, and see how it's impacted.
Yeah,
I'm going to lean slightly towards dubbing as opposed to subtitles, but that's my bias. That was really the only bad I had was and it wasn't the bad of the movie. It was my bad. Following the political intrigue and the social why things are the way they are, couldn't pick it up as well as I'd like, and also having to read, the subtitles where that was just hard for me to do. So I should probably work on my Japanese. The only Japanese I know is how to attack people and throw them and use various sword techniques on them.
Yeah, that's good.
Only partially translatable into the movies.
Definitely.
So,
can you discuss briefly? We were talking about this before we recorded. How martial arts kind of formed during peaceful era.
Oh, okay. I'm sure I'll get slammed, but this is a thing I have found from talking to martial artists who are also historians. The martial arts that we know nowadays, karate, jiu-jitsu, iaido, kendo, they formed a long time ago, and a lot of these martial arts are hundreds of years old because they might have started with somebody, but a lot of Japanese martial arts were really refined right around the Meiji Restoration when Japan was no longer at civil war, because before 17 something, there was a lot of infighting in Japan, like different fiefdoms. I think they were daimyos, were the local warlord, and then you'd have different groups, cities, whatever, fighting each other. But then when they all came under the direction of the shogun and eventually the emperor, Meiji Restoration was the big thing, but that was the modernization of Japan. But in the period of peace prior to the Meiji Restoration, that's when they could focus on things. Like they took their sword skills and then really honed them, or their karate skills or jiu-jitsu skills, and really refined them into formal systems that they could, because they were at peace now. So it's like, we had to kill to survive, or do whatever, and you had to learn how to, if you lost your sword, you had to grapple or punch your way out of the problem. But they could then, during that period of peace, refine their martial art, which is weird, because Marshall has to do with war.
Right.
So it's this war stuff that they're really focusing on in a peacetime. So anyway, that's what I have heard from the martial artists that I know that have a historical bent, and people like Don Drager, who's a martial artist, wrote about the history. It's a bunch of other martial artist historians. It's interesting stuff. But it didn't help me in my watching of the movie. Like I said, this is definitely one I have to watch again to pick up more of the story, to find out what's happening. Because a lot of it I didn't know what was happening right up until it was happening.
Right.
And then it's like, oh my gosh, what did I just watch?
There are great YouTube synopses of like the history of samurai movies that gives you context to the history and to other stuff that happens in the movies. James will probably
the other guy.
James could give you like some good recommendations.
Yeah, and that's cool thing about James is he's a student of film, and he's also does martial arts, so he has that background. So it's always he always has a good recommendations. Although he tends to recommend his movie martial art expertise is more Chinese, like a lot of the kung fu stuff, a lot of Jackie Chan stuff. He's also giving me interesting recommendations from Korean movies.
Oh yeah,
that involve different bits of martial arts, but also gunplay. So he's never without a recommendation. Did you have any items that were bad that you didn't like, that were difficult for you?
So,
because I've told mine, and they were all failings of myself.
I'll be honest. I don't really see any bad stuff. Like I don't want to say it was.
Cool.
I don't want to say it was about errors. You know, I don't think it's like the most perfect film, but I don't have like a list of bad stuff from the movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I can't point to this movie and say, I'm trying to make an analogy to what we did on Ghostbusters. There weren't any jokes, but like I can't point to stuff like this sword fight was bad, or this scene was uninteresting, or whatever. Like there's nothing I can point to and say I had a problem with the movie. And it wasn't even, I think I mentioned I had seen Ron, Kurosawa's Ron, which dragged for me in a lot of ways. This movie did not drag.
Right.
Like it starts off right away, the girl and the grandfather, they're out for a walk, and all of a sudden the grandfather's murdered. Like, what the hell? Like right away it gets you. So yeah, I had no bads. Like I said, the only weird thing for me was the ending. That was the only thing that, and again, it's not bad. It's just not what I expected. Because the way they built it up, I'm expecting the evil samurai and the young upstart who's practicing his secret technique, and they're going to come to, and will the technique work? Will it not work? What's going to happen?
It never happens.
Nope, just stop. just done. End in freeze frame.
What's going to happen? We won't even
tune in next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, so I think this is definitely a recommend for people to watch.
Yeah, there's a good reason why it's on the Criterion Collection.
Yeah, definitely watch it. And like I said, another good point about a movie, if it's one of those where I'm like, I have to watch this again. Did I tell you the first time I did that? Like literally watched it. Like I watched the movie and then watched it again. I think the same day, possibly the next day. The Usual Suspects.
Really,
dude, I watched that movie and went, I have to watch this again. That because you're like, what? Yeah.
Right.
And then there have been other movies where I'm like, Memento.
Right. Oh man.
But that was tough to watch because I didn't know going in what it was about. Then you watch it and then your brain breaks and then you go, I must watch this again. But yeah, and then people have their favorite movies that at any point I could just pull it off the shelf and watch it. Absolutely. But yeah, this is definitely a watch again, and I think that's a praise for a movie in different ways. Sometimes it just hits all your marks. This one was just so dense.
Yeah.
There was so much to it that I have to see it again. So I may not let you take it away. I'll let you take it. Because knowing me, unlike you, I'm like, I have so many movies on my list. There are too many that I want to put ahead of it.
Gotcha.
So, but we'll touch base later.
All right, that's the end of our discussion, folks. Thank you so much for listening. And David, thank you for having me here and for letting me have this in your home. Right here.
I'm happy to do it. When you first mentioned it, I was like, this sounds great. Even though you upset my expectations from what your podcast is. But I like the concept where, at the very least, it gets people to watch their movies that they've been meaning to watch
Yeah.
forever. So
Yeah.
I just like that from that point of view.
Cool.
So it was a lot of fun.
So let me ask you real quick. I ask this for every guest. Were the movies a hit or miss with you?
Yes. So, yes, Sword of Doom was a hit. Definitely. Absolutely. And again, I will watch it again once I can borrow it from you. Ghostbusters was a miss. It was scale of 1 to 10. It wasn't a 1, but it didn't reach up even to 5. Maybe like a 3. There were some okay aspects, but it was a miss.
Yeah. I would say the same thing for me. Sword of Doom, definite hit for me. Like, it's right on target. I always use the analogy of the target. Nice. It hit right the target, right in the center, right through the other arrow.
That's the Robin Hood. Yes.
So, yeah, this is like the Robin Hood hit.
Yep.
And Ghostbusters, unfortunately, that was a miss. Like, I knew the criticism behind it, but I was hoping they were wrong. But
yeah, I wanted to be wrong.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be wrong.
Yeah. So, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so where can we find you on social media?
Myself, personally, I'm on a bunch of things, mainly on Facebook. I post a lot there, but mainly pictures of turtles that I find around my house. I'm the only David Norton in Bryantown, Maryland, so if people really want to find me there. If people are interested in Aikido and the stuff I do with the dojo, I can be found if you just search Pax River Aikikai, Aikikai, Pax River Aikikai. You'll find us on Facebook. We're a personal page. We're not a business page because of how I set it up. Again, Grandpa can't tech. I'm on Twitter. The dojo's on Twitter and Instagram. We have a YouTube channel, which I'm hoping to put out videos for new students, which someone told me, yeah, you should probably do this, but it's one of those, I have this fear of failure that I don't want to put out crappy content. Maybe you know about. But yeah, that's where you can find the dojo if people are interested in Aikido and Iaido and movie martial arts stuff.
Yeah, gotcha. All right, thank you, David, and thank you for listening. And until next time, cross off a new film from your list. Thank you for listening to the Hit List Podcast. If you liked this episode, please consider giving us 5 stars and leaving a review. It really does help. You can also follow us on Facebook at The Hit List Podcast and Instagram at _hitlist_podcast.